Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Pinball Arcade. So last time we did Owl's Garage Band Goes on World Tour, which for a table centered around the thought of uh, music, it was pretty bad. Today we're doing, what does that say, Black Rage? Back Black Phase? I still can't figure out what this, uh, I still can't figure out what this Black Rose, okay. I knew it was a pirate theme because it has a skull and crossbones, and that's about it. We did have Bone Breakers, which was the last table we saw with like a skeleton head on the top of the table, which I think you could probably see something like that being reused. Um, but otherwise, as far as pirate themed tables, this is the first one we've seen. There definitely have been digital pirate themed tables, two or three that I've seen over my lifetime, but the digital pinball tables tend to be nowhere close to accurate creations of good pinball. Black Rose was designed by John Trudeau and Brian Eddy, who also worked together on the Williams classic The Machine, Bride of Pinbot, which interesting that that's the name of the table in this description, but I'm fairly certain they just called it Bride of Pinbot uh, in the arcade. This table gives you landlubbers the chance to live the life of a pirate on the high seas, enter the Pirate's Cove for multi-ball and a chance to find hidden treasure, spiral your way to an extra ball on the Whirlpool ramp, and collect torches, gunpowder, and cannonballs to open Davy Jones's locker. Sink ships with a deadly accurate cannon that pops up from the playfield and fires pinballs. 3 interactive video modes. Test your pirating skills to prove you're no scallywag. This game has loaded 3,746 units of this table. 3 times, nearly 4 times as many as LNG's World Tour for comparison. And this does sound interesting. Now, of course, it is worth mentioning that pirates and pirate stories fairly died out late 80s. Interesting, there's a fire button here, but then there's a plunger button up, regular plunger there. Um, so, oh, yeah, it is just a ball launcher that pops up in the middle of the lane and shoots the ball, which I don't see why there's this just giant cannon ramp going down the exact center of the table. I think that's probably a bad design. I don't think I like that, but um, it's an interesting experiment, something that we shouldn't would have wanted to see. This is a Williams table, but instead of having yellow or white flippers, it's black and red. Um, and then we have some muscly pirate men on the side, and then we have a pirate with a beard, and then a pirate lady with a rose tattoo on her boob. So it's seemingly here you have a pirate skeleton. Seemingly we've got a collection of pirate characters. We'll have to figure out if all of those names work. See, she has I guess that is a black rose tattoo. So she might be the pirate captain and he might be the first mate, as it were. Um, there's a ramp that goes up here and then seems to sneak behind the table. We're seeing more and more of this where things are just happening behind the back art of the table. And maybe that's making some tables shorter. Sometimes it makes the tables longer. But we've lost consistency there for sure. And I think if we were to look at a standard wood table from the 60s, this would also indicate that the angles of the tables may be getting sharper and the tables are getting more difficult as far as just the tilt of the playfield. Um, but yeah, we've got some standing targets here. We have a sinker shot down the direct center. So this is like the mast of the center mast of the ship. So you shoot the ball directly up the center, then it shoots it, I think, back up here and then on the ramp down this way, which technically that drops the ball on the flipper, but it's hardly an in-lane ramp compared to this in-lane ramp. Yeah, pirate stories in the 80s and 90s got replaced with a lot of sci-fi stories and things like that. There were previous generations fandom. Here we have Davy Jones's locker, which I don't know where that ball ends up when you hit it there. That's probably a multi-ball, and then there's a ramp that I think probably shoots the ball back downward, and then 3 pop-up bumpers. I keep expecting at some point we might see a small resurgence of cowboys and Indian stories and pirate stories, but no, I don't see any evidence that that's ever actually going to happen. Excuse me. Here's the Whirlpool wraparound, and that's not too terrible of a shot. There's just this one gimmick that may be a problem on the table. No special things on the back glass. Even by 1992, we're starting to see the case where the special thing on the back glass or the back here is the LCD matrix, and so they've stopped putting spinners or entire other play fields or anything like that. Then, yeah, they're maybe selling a little bit on the sex here. You have almost like leotard thong-like outfit of the pirate queen. But in all fairness, if we're gonna say that they are drawing lewd images on the back glass, then they by far are showing more beefy men. That there is more beefcake than cheesecake on this table art. Which, yeah, that would be more accurate. How do you get up this ramp and through there? That doesn't even seem lined up correctly. So the ball must come out from that end from a ramp over here. That's probably where Davy Jones's locker comes out. Okay, so that's a loop. It does have one of these upper playfield flippers that may have to be used quite a bit. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt if half of the sci-fi shows that were made were set in pirate times, or cowboys and Indians times. Cowboys and Indians gets rightfully accused of being propagating stereotypes, where pirate stories not so much. And then there's the Disney Pirates of the Caribbean movies did bring back pirates for that movie series and pretty much nothing else. Plus, they aren't going to make any more of those, I'm sure. So, that's the end of that. And I guess there is just this catch-22 where this is a Bailey table, but it's got a Williams logo. So, yeah, Bailey is a subsidiary of Williams, and Bailey is the trademark of Midway. So the whole thing is really confused. So we want to do a skill shot, score a combo shot, earn an extra ball, score a sneak attack, and activate a 3-ball multi-ball. Let's see how that goes.
Come aboard, matey.
So we don't really know what a skill shot was on that table. You start with sync lit. You're trying to light sync ship, I'm sure. So that starts a video mode. Press the fire button to hit the barrel for extra ball. Which one's fire button? Okay, so apparently right trigger is the fire button. So the Pinball Arcade should have probably explained that on the pop-up.
Give 'em a taste of iron, boys.
Alright, so it does just pop up to shoot. It doesn't come up before that point. So we're hearing the pirate lady. She does definitely feel like a...
Here's our chance.
She does feel like a real character. That does like shoot really, really fast too. And the idea of introducing something really fast is kind of crazy in pinball, but it does take it to a whole new generation.
Let your aim be true.
Yeah, I guess there's just wasn't enough of an embracement on nostalgia around pirates or around cowboys and Indians or westerns, and you probably could do a western themed pinball table. You probably could do another pirate themed pinball table, but odds are it's not going to go very far or get very popular. If you were to do a pirate or western movie, it would potentially get labeled as almost a period piece and then ignored by most people. Like how do you compete against like a Marvel superhero movie? Even in the Marvel universe, there is like western comic books, Jonah Hex and things like that that try to succeed but don't really. Well, I figured out what the skill shot was. I just didn't have the camera at the right angle to see it. I need one more letter to spell sink ship. So I got 3 out of 5 standard goals in that first game, just warming up and learning the table, and a high score. So this is a probably too easy table, but I kind of like it. That what you would want to see really here would be a case of licensing the Secret of Monkey Island for a pinball table, because then you could take elements from the first Secret of Monkey Island or the second game or even some of the later Monkey Island games if there's something really, really funny. But you would have a lot of things that you could steal from or borrow from and license. So that entire ramp of Davy Jones's locker lifts up off the table. It's not even a flap. It's like it's the entire ramp is metal. This table is really going for that tight center lane shot, which going the full length of a table in a tight center lane shot is pretty difficult, and it certainly explains why there is a mast pointing you in that direction to show what kind of angles you should be shooting for. That responded very weakly, that flipper shot.
Give 'em a taste of iron, boys.
There we go. So that's what you're trying to get good at. Press the fire button to land on the ship for 2 million. Oops. And then it shoots the ball back down. very fast. It's like this table is an experiment on how fast can we make the ball move before we start to irritate the player. That would have been a point for it to potentially it to potentially help me a little bit. I kind of wonder if maybe the cannon was on the table always instead of popping up, if that wouldn't help keep the ball from draining, but it would have to be angled in such a way that it doesn't block a bunch of shots. The center left lineup of standing targets we've seen before, the ramp we've seen before. If anything, this table in a lot of angles looks like it is just a reskin of already existing tables. But that works fine.
Let your aim be true.
Almost got it.
One better. Shoot for broadside. Shoot for broadside.
Now, I'm sure a lot of people don't know what broadside is, but I guess that's the center shot. I guess that makes sense. I suppose in the Marvel universe, the group of characters with what is the name of that group? I suppose they are basically pirates, but they're space pirates.
From a taste of iron, boys.
The Guardians of the Galaxy is what I'm thinking of, yeah. The Guardians of the Galaxy movie technically are pirates, but space pirates, so they don't have that feeling and element to it. And it's still very easy to...
Give them our regards, men.
to mess up a plunger launch. Press the fireball rapidly to reach land for extra ball.
Swim, ya bills rat.
And see, that might be just another case where using a trigger on a controller is just never going to be as fast with the long throw as pressing a flipper button or a switch button. A lot of lights are blinking. There's a lot going on visually on this table, particularly since you're not really doing too much. Like, your main goal, as far as I've figured it out just playing, is to shoot for the center and shoot for the Davy Jones locker to start different video modes. There's another case of accidentally getting the hitting the ball because I'm holding down the flipper on the right instead of flipping it, so that upper flipper can block the shot sometimes. The Whirlwind, I just realized, doesn't have any edges, so you have to, well, it has an outer edge, not an inner edge, so you have to hit it fairly hard, otherwise you're not going to make it through the Whirlwind.
I'm Black Rose, Queen of the High Seas.
I'm Black Rose, Queen of the High Seas, so she is the queen, the pirate queen, as it were. Or at least the captain calling herself the queen. Did we look at the flyer on this table? Yeah, I think we did, but I want to go back and check it again. And since this is Bailey introducing a character, you would expect her to show up in something like Taxi as a reoccurring character later on. And I'm not sure we are going to see her. Like, I could see Black Rose 2 being made and trying to make her kind of a mascot type character. You can have Party Zone, certainly, a game like Party Zone, and she could have been the old school partier. She could be part of the boarding party. There's definitely puns to make there. This is kind of a great theme for a table because it's in 1992 there still would have been enough in the mental general cultural consciousness that people would have said, oh, there's a pirate game, you like pirate stories, why don't you play that? And just tell that to little kids and they would have fun and they wouldn't have to know anything or understand anything there.
I'm Black Rose, Queen of the High Seas.
There has been some, what I would describe as almost violent misinformation as far as pirates, with Disney introducing is it called Jake the Pirate? Disney has this cartoon where the pirates are all friends and they don't steal and they all share together, and it's just like the most ridiculous misinformation you'd ever hear. It's propaganda at its worst to make a kid-friendly, cutesy thing. So, like, they should have just called themselves adventurers if that was the case. Like, no, pirates are there to rob people, steal things. They mostly all were willing to kill people. They're bad guys. Even if they were pirates with a code that said they would take prisoners and save and then only rob people, they're still doing bad things. And the truth of piracy, as it really happened, is that the UK allowed and sponsored and encouraged piracy against other countries.
With those cannons, boys.
I also think there was the Skull and Crossbones flag actually meant that they would take prisoners, where just a full black flag would mean that they weren't going to take any prisoners. So there was a different level of fear. Piracy is still alive even in 2021. It's just more just people with AK-47s robbing cargo ships than anything else. So you wouldn't really want to tell heroic stories. Maybe that's the problem, and the reason why there aren't too many pirate stories is it was just fetishizing criminal behavior, dangerous criminal behavior. Which is in part why I'm sure they called copying digital files piracy, is to make it sound as evil and criminal and despicable as possible. Didn't really work, but like there is a major difference between robbing a ship and depriving a ship of its cargo and thus its way of earning income, and a pirate ship potentially taking taking control of a ship full of books and then copying each of the books and returning the originals to the ship, which is what was by law required at the Library of Alexandria, is that anyone entering Alexandria had to forfeit all books over for them to be copied, and then it probably would take quite a while for somebody to hand scribe a copy, and then they would return the originals to the people. And I imagine if you had a book that they already had, they wouldn't bother to make another copy that way. It's a little surprising that these video sections actually work. It's just screaming millions all over the place. So I don't think this is getting me like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. I think what it's doing is getting it's getting the final reward up. Extra ball or replay or extra game. I guess that was probably an extra game. Got 2-ball multi-ball going fairly well. This definitely feels like a...
Now send them to Davy Jones.
It feels like a table where you really are just gonna have to get really good at that center shot. A sunk ship. These music pirate songs have been redone, so they sound slightly different. So they're not quite as iconic as I would like, but they're fine. It does kind of feel like a one-note table, though. This is a table where I've been playing for like 27 minutes, and that would be about as much as I think I'd be willing to play. I wish you could shoot other places with the cannon and there was a focus on that, but it doesn't seem like that is the case. Let's see, like sneak attacks. Sneak attack is scored when the left ramp shots that don't complete the loop. They don't complete the loop and instead roll down the side ramp. Okay. Spell lock with the in lanes and out lanes to lock the multi-ball. Lane changing the spell lock. Second ball plunger. Launch the ball to activate a multi-ball. It can be turned into a 3-ball multi-ball by shooting both balls into the Pirate's Cove. Okay, so that's what I need to do. Then extra ball. I feel like hit the Whirlpool a couple times. Alright.
Come aboard, matey. You get another chance.
In comparison to like Star Trek The Next Generation, which has about 6 or 7 video modes, having 3 it would have been groundbreaking at the time, but is not insane numbers. the 3 triggers are all the same. I don't know if you really needed a fire button in the center. That feels like a gimmick. And the fire button is a square button, which isn't mechanically any different from the buttons on the flippers, but it would be a different piece of plastic to have an inventory. Arguably, real pirate stories were mostly novels, so more of a story feels like it should be being told in a table like this. Let's see if I shoot up the ramp, if I could have done that. It looks like that would have worked. There's a parrot. You would kind of think that there should be a parrot toy on the table. This table's kind of lacking in gimmicks. I think the biggest thing you do is you get rid of the cannon that shoots the ball all the way down the ramp, and you instead have it go to the right in lane. There we go. The focus around collecting the torch and different items to get to Davy Jones' locker was unneeded.
Load the cannon.
Like torch and gunpowder. I guess it's iconic, but definitely didn't feel necessary. We can get back to the same thing of, I wish there was more of a ball saver on this table. I wish there was more of a there was a kickback.
Come aboard, matey.
See, like,
Another chance.
this has a ball saver mode, but just look how easy it is to drain regardless. This is, I think, Whirlwind's layout in a lot of ways. And so, very broadly speaking, there's like 3 or 4 different classes and styles of tables as far as the layouts go. And some work better than others. Still playing with these fairly weak Williams flippers. And maybe they were originally Williams flippers, even though this is a Gottlieb table, because maybe Williams just made the part and branded them for everybody. That is true for like fight sticks. There is Sanwa style, Sanwa brand buttons.
Swim, ya Bill Drat.
Yeah, and again, this is a video mode that's just not gonna work. And this time when the cannon shoots the ball at me, it shows a video, and I'm looking at the video instead of looking at the ball. Man, I am just always too low on that. That bump does seem to stop the ball from ending up in the wrong place.
Load the cannon.
Notice that the cannon never spun back. So it doesn't reset itself or do anything. It just stays wherever it is. I imagine if I were to exit all the way out, it would reset.
Black Rose, queen of the high seas.
I feel like we need Black Rose to be laughing. I think we need to have her break into a pirate song. We need a pirate song to actually play. The skeleton character seems to not really be an element in the story. Alright, well that got me the sneak in. So now it would just be get the extra ball. Yeah, in 2021 you might make the argument that even if you make a pirate table with a pirate queen called Black Rose, they don't know how to write women well enough to give a real narrative, a story here. Like, this isn't the Addams Family table. There is no... Oops. I messed up. Apparently the left flipper also fires. Like, you can't rely on a movie. Having the first mate talk and tell you what to do is redundant. They should have given all the lines to Black Rose instead of having the gunner. He may be the gunner, not the first mate.
Give 'em a taste of iron, boys.
Okay. Notice how there's flashing lights but to the side of the cannon so it can see, so it can get your attention as best as you can. There we go, got an extra ball. I didn't know that was what I was gonna get, actually. So I may have gotten all the standard goals 40 minutes in. So it's kind of a good table to just put a new player to pinball on. It's not going to be super in demand, so nobody else is going to really want to play it other than other kids. And it's not going to be super complicated. So it works fairly nicely as a practice table. Although arguably, if a kid had never played pinball before in their life, putting them on a 1960s era wooden table also makes a lot of sense because that's super simplistic. 3-ball multi-ball is all we can do now.
Rose, queen of the high seas. I'm waiting.
So what is the quickest thing? Oh, I guess the skeleton is Davy Jones. So what, do we have a second thing that can light the locks, or do we need to hit Whirlwind to get really good at hitting Whirlwind to light the left in lane to start a multi-ball?
Give 'em our regards, men. One letter.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that can light locks other than the in lanes. And if you can't light the locks, then you can't get multi-ball. And if you can't get multi-ball, then you can't get double multi-ball. Or 3-ball multi-ball, not double multi-ball. So far, I've never heard of a game that had double multi-ball. That would be interesting idea. So I probably should do is every time the ball is in the top right, I probably should let it fall down. That way I get a bit more opportunities to hit it with the lower right corner. Alright. So now we're a 2-ball multi-ball. Means make the shots to the far right. Lock the ball in. I don't think there's a good way to reset multi-ball. And I don't think you get like a score multiplier going up the mast. So I think those lights going up the mast just mean follow this way, shoot this way. I think that could have been a bonus in the ball bonus thing. Let's look here. So you have 20 seconds to hit the second ball into the same thing. And then you're trying to spell sink ship. Or get jewels and other things, just hit things in general. Hidden treasure mode is probably something you'd have to do in wizard mode. Trying to see what is actually a jackpot though. Let's see. Yeah, these lights here that say poly, knife, instant multi-ball, walk to plank, treasure, chest, rig swinging, million. Okay, so each one of these are indicators of some reward. And there's a jackpot. Apparently you can kill Polly. Interesting. Interesting little animal violence there. I just noticed this is another table that has a barcode on it. It seems ridiculous that you would make your table look uglier by putting a barcode.
Let your aim be true. One letter. Shoot for broad.
It feels like there should be a sneak-in bonus also, where you could go on the ramp on the left and end up just weak enough to hit a sink a sneak-in target, drop-down target, and hit the broadside from behind. But no, they don't really have anything like that. And the problem with having the ball locks enabled on the in lanes is that's like the last time you would ever want to be messing with the flippers to change which lane is lit up on. That is just incredibly dangerous.
Swing from the rigging.
So you start the mini game faster. And that time it gave me open locker. Not. And that opened Davy Jones' locker, not opening the ball lock. This is another table where I really wish there was a top lane rollover to light up letters, and instead of just in lane out lane light up letters. In fact, we haven't seen that many tables like this. There's been a few, but normally what you're lighting up on the in lane and out lane is something that you could either do somewhere higher up on the table in a redundant fashion, or you can, or whatever you're lighting up doesn't even really matter that much. It would be a score multiplier, which is way less dynamic than a multi-ball. And hitting the Pirate's Cove shot does not shoot the ball down a place where it would light up a lock ball. So there is no figure eight style pattern to it. It's mostly just play the ball, play the game. And this does feel like just an issue that should have been addressed in quality testing. If you can get really good at the whirlwind shot.
Swim, ya Bill Drat.
Wow, that really goes to show just how far you have to go with that mini game too. And see, I have a bit of arthritis in my fingers, so jamming a controller is not something I particularly want to do. See, that's just the end of the multi-ball. Like one quick drain and your multi-ball's done. I guess this was really highlighting the problem with two-ball multi-ball in general, is that it is really easy without a great ball saver feature to accidentally drain real quickly. I'm running out of things to say about this table, and I'm just trying fairly hard to succeed and failing miserably. The idea of pinballs and cannonball makes a lot of sense, so it is weird that there isn't a like see-through plastic, clear plastic cannonball cannon on like the kickback on the left side where you would lock the ball. Because I could see something like that, for sure. I could see a full toy ship. I have at least one ship in a bottle made out of Lego, and one giant Pirates of the Caribbean Lego pirate ship. So those are interesting style toys that you could emulate and try to replicate in smaller forms. Right. That's one. Then I've got 20 seconds to hit the other one. There we go. So there's our 3-ball multi-ball. What am I supposed to be doing now? Whatever I want, I suppose. Music doesn't really change. I got a hidden treasure. So I imagine that is probably the biggest jackpot you can get. It's kind of interesting that they have you throw knives, but they don't have like a real knife bite happen. So they're trying not to be super violent. They don't mention keel hauling anybody or anything like that. I would say it's kind of weird that they're basically sneaking in the fact that Black Rose is a pirate queen. They're not even advertising it as that. This oddly is a better table that's not trying to sell on sex, but it has snuck in a female main character almost halfway towards 1992 feminism, I imagine. 10 million jackpot, 3 bank ricochet, 32 million double broadside, activate hidden treasure. I think we did that and sink 5 ships. Those all seem to be fairly difficult goals. I wouldn't be surprised if for a table like this it would take me 5 hours or more just getting really good at it and really practicing at it, and I don't know if there's enough on this table to really make me want to play this table for 5 hours. Like almost all the pinball tables that we're going to see at this point are going to have some really difficult in-game concepts that most people are never going to see. That was interesting. There was 2 cows fighting with swords. And it's just that they started adding modes for, I think, old school professional pinball players. And in 1992, I imagine there was still a decent number of tournaments. Tournaments never got really big, though. You would have thought that Saturday night TV would have had tournaments of people playing pinball or something like a sport, but it never really got that way. And I guess that's a shame that esports as they stand now, still don't really highlight people who are really good at generic video games or pinball or arcade games. Or like they never even got darts and billiards to really show up on anything lower than ESPN 3, I'm sure. And I would be kidding myself if I really said that pinball was super popular amongst a large percentage of people. It was always a niche product.
Let your aim be true. One better.
Now we don't need to start 3-ball multi-ball, I think, but it might not hurt.
Prepare to return fire.
What would be nice is if that started an instant multi-ball. There are definitely some programming things you can make different. Of course, that's true for almost any pinball tables. If I've already added the single central peg and kickbacks and increased ball savers, then programming different elements and programming different things to happen would be the next thing to improve on most tables, particularly once we start getting to LCD tables like these and more computerized tables. And almost certainly a brand new pinball table, if it was made in 2021, would have a way to connect to the internet and get firmware updates of some sort and different modes. There's hidden treasure. We got sink ship lit. So what do I have to hit to actually sink a ship? Because they wanted me to sink 5 ships. And that's a tall order. Particularly if I have to hit it in the broadside every time. It does feel like I either have to hit it on the left ramp or hit it in the broadside. Nope, I literally have to hit it in the center. So that is a high demand spell sink ship and then shoot up the broadside of a ship 5 times. And what that really highlights is how little actually, what little other things are to do on this table. Like you can see, I've been playing for like a minute now and not been able to really accomplish anything new or move the story forward. It would probably be nice if they had named the 5 ships that we were going to end up shooting. It's saying shoot for the ramps, but I don't know if I really should be shooting for the ramps or whether I should be doing something else. Arguably, part of the problem here is this cannon needs to be improved. That the opening in the center lane should be about twice as wide. And in all fairness, that is one good part about Al's Garage Band World Tour, is that it has a very, very wide center shot, but then it has a spinner But yeah, if that was a wider area, I could make that shot a lot more often. Either that or you institute a stepper motor, which is much more controlled. So instead of it just analog panning left and right, it actually moves, say, 5 degrees minimum. So you know for a fact whether you're going to hit it or not. The angles on this table still not great. Very wide outlane areas. I would try to fix that. And I don't know if I even want to bother to try and use ball control on this table, because you basically have one standing target and one sinkhole target you can hit. If I can get all the way to the top, I can hit the 3 standing targets up there. There's unimportant 3 standing targets in the middle of the table. Far too many tables are focused around that center lane shot, and far too many tables mess with you by making you do the center lane shot and then end up causing the ball to drain down the center. So yeah, when you see a table like this, it's no surprise people started nudging tables. That was never encouraged as an idea or as a skill, but it really was the only way to even slightly have a chance. I kind of feel like almost every table should just have a bump so that it is just slightly raised, and that there's a little triangle piece or a bump on the table, or a ramp. It could have also been certainly a case where you could have, instead of having the ship that you're shooting be all the backboard of this, it could have just been a toy in the center here with a sinkhole, or it could have even been here. Yeah, you remove that bump there and move this slightly to the left and remove that bump there. This would be a easier shot. You then cut a hole and widen the ramps. Just a little bit of metal bending is all you would need. Or you fix this so it shoots better. But yeah, if you're not focused on that one gimmick and not focused on hitting the broadside of this table, you don't really have a lot to do. I like the fact that this Davy Jones locker pops up so much. We've been seeing an increase of these metal plates on top of the table too, instead of plastic. So they must have realized over the years that the plastic ramps were not as durable. So it hits metal, then goes up on plastic. I don't really feel like that changes the ramps and makes them more difficult by any means. And yeah, I would definitely get rid of this long metal thing. What would be funny is if this went down fairly slow and you nudged it so it actually ended up there. But that would never happen. Alright, let's look at operator mode just for consistency's sake. See, utilities and adjustments again. Standard adjustments. Same old, same old. They're getting very standardized now. Not to expect any big difference here. Some have times and dates. Some of them have ticket selling abilities. This would be a table, like a kind of pinball table that you would want to have print out tickets. I definitely was very shocked when I first saw my first pinball table that was spitting out tickets per play. That is something that never even would have been a consideration in my mind until I saw it, that they had just turned pinball to the level of skee ball, where, yeah, skee ball's fun 1, maybe 2 times you play it, but the only reason you'd play it after that is because you're trying to get tickets to win cheap toys and prizes. And that's pretty much what happens with all of a lot of the gimmick arcade games, is that they became really just nothing more than veiled gambling mechanics to get tickets. Yeah, I'm not saying anything of interest there. Instead of having their own selling power. Whereas arcade games, I don't think were ever programmed in any way that they could have handed out tickets, and I never feel like I don't think arcade games ever reached that low. Now, arguably, if you went to a modern entertainment center, it probably is a whole bunch of things that are just spinning out tickets and gimmicks, and there are very little video games or arcade games. I suppose cheating here seems to somewhat work. Let's see. So I could potentially light the locks real easy. I can try and hit that, which that clearly doesn't get hit very often because I had a whole sound effect I'd never even heard. I can probably get the ball up here for a ball lock. And then I can potentially Stern Multiball, which I can then lock both balls for a double multi-ball. And then I can try and wiggle every single ball upward towards the broadside. And just snake it if I'm looking for high scores. Come on. Still fairly difficult. The pop-up bumpers don't play any real role in this game. They don't really do anything. Problem with this is you're not really accomplishing anything, even in multi-ball. I can hit everything, I can try and hit all I want, and it's giving you scores for collecting coins and jewels. Some of these standing targets aren't even designed so that you actually have to hit them, all 3 of them, which a more complicated table that would have been the case. the scale of the pinball. Interesting. So to get the bonus multiplier, I guess you have to hit all of these or all of these. Because I just got the bonus multiplier for 2. And like even cheating here though, I'm failing kind of miserably. Alright, so let's just play, because like that's as much as you can cheat, and even with that much cheating, there's nothing really happening. Like I still need one letter.
Let your aim be true. One letter.
And see, at that point, you can sink a ship. I thought you could sink a ship. I guess maybe not. Like it says sink ship is it's saying shoot the broadside.
Now send them to Davy Jones.
But I guess you have to load the cannon and shoot it that way to sink the ship. And once you sunk one ship, then it resets everything and you have to spell all of sink ship again, don't you? And see, that's the narrative, I suppose. And so it wants me to go up that ramp. Unless there's an easier way to sink the second ship. I think you gotta spell sink ship again. In all fairness, it didn't set you all the way back to spelling sink ship from nothing, but I can't imagine you would be able to actually sink more than 2 or 3 of these without getting really, really good about keeping the ball in play, and I just don't see that happening. Really. It's just too difficult to keep these balls in play. And that is where a lot of tables end up dying and just not being that fun in the long run, is that you realize you can't get anywhere with them. So I think that sounds means we may have gotten a jackpot or a letter. Yeah, you're gonna have to learn which sound means what. They sure hyped up the Whirlpool as a ramp, and it really is nothing. It's a sink ship is lit, which would mean I'd have to get. I need to get the ball over. Yeah, slowly get the ball into that area.
Now send them to Davy Jones.
And that didn't work. So the shot was missed. But just hitting it doesn't.
Swim, ya Bill Drax.
know what I realized is I could have been alternating flippers this whole time. But yeah. You've got to load the cannon to sink the ship. And then that sinks ship number 2. And that lights the special. And the cannon is ready for loading.
Give 'em a broadside, mate.
But see, the cannon was ready for loading for just video mode. Wasn't ready for loading to sink another ship. So at this point, I need a couple more letters. Again. Which it seems like it is giving you enough of an random number of letters you actually have to have.
Look smart with those cannons, boys. One letter. Video mode.
I'm still pretty bad at that. So it must randomize the number of letters you need to spell sink ship. But yeah, you are spending a lot of time getting this one shot here, both for multi-ball and for lighting sink ship. You're spending a lot of time with a center lane shot. You're spending a lot of time with the Davy Jones locker shot. Still have yet to really figure out if you can get a score multiplier more than 2 times. And even with ball control, I still managed to fail there. So I guess if you can get a couple of sunken ships on one ball and a couple of sunken ships on another ball and one sunken ship on the third ball, you might stand a chance, but that's really asking a lot. Okay, let's just play. I can't even get up the angles. I'm still incapable of accomplishing the knife throwing minigame. Which is kind of fine if I'm getting good enough to do at least one of them in half the time, and the other may be easier than it seems.
Give 'em our regards, men. One letter.
It does feel like the cannon should be easier to load and should be shot more often, or there should just be 2 cannons. What would make a lot of sense is if there were 2 cannons on both sides of the table, left and right, and they shot balls, and that's exactly what happens in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Although I gotta admit, this table is kind of hard to put down. It's got that je ne sais quoi to it. So that's ship 3. And that special, that hitting that gave you a special of 0. But lock the ball. Right. cows kind of feel like they come out of nowhere as a concept. And see, even cheating there, I was not good enough to keep the ball in play. 250 million. Did I put the game in tournament mode there? Because it said Grand Champion. But you can see there I got the highest high score, but I was cheating, so when we actually go back to the high score, it shouldn't have kept that. Alright, well. Ironically, I think I'll put this on the favorite mode because I think I would come back to it. Not very often. This is probably 28th, 27th out of the top 30. I wouldn't want to play Black Rose too much. I would like to know more about Black Rose and see a second Black Rose table made at some point. Score-wise, overall, we have hundreds of billions, then it quickly jumps down to 10 billion, which seems like a very reasonable amount of score. The week just reset, so I'm number 2 on high scores. So yeah, not a lot of people playing this table. Monthly would probably give us well, the month also just reset, so it won't help much either. 15th monthly for the last 3 days. First 3 days of the month. Like, ideally, what we would be looking for is another pirate-themed table at some point. And I'm not sure we actually get one. There had to have been a pirate-themed table somewhere that just was not in the curation and not their pick. But yeah, seems like the. Also, I suppose it's worth mentioning that we've pretty much lost fantasy stories at this point. Genie, Gorgar, Paragon, all completely missing. The last fantasy we kind of had would have been, I don't even know, probably Gorgon or Paragon. Haunted House is spooky. We don't see a lot of them. Bone Busters was spooky. Phantom of the Opera, not the high fantasy Tolkien-esque fantasy I'm talking about. Are we gonna see any other fantasy tables? Maybe we'll get one, but they definitely have fallen out of fad by 92. And they don't really come back into the curation. Although, yeah, the curation of like the 2000 era tables is only 8 tables at this point, and they're not likely to get too many more. So, for 2 different reasons. One, not that many new tables are being made, and 2, the Pinball Arcade is not really getting the licensing money or the income to license anything. I guess the next time we'll look at Creature of the Black Lagoon, which kind of is fantasy, but not Tolkien-esque fantasy. I think I definitely would prefer to play Black Rose more than I would have wanted to play Addams Family. For the reason that Addams Family has the magnets under the table that mess with your shots. And I've kind of already forgotten about Al's Garage World Tour. Would I want to play Black Rose more than Terminator 2? Probably. Because there's that one frustrating shot on Terminator 2 that you have to do, where there are several different shots at least you can try on Black Rose. I still feel like Party Zone might be the best table we've seen on this row so far. We have only a couple more tables to impress. And yeah, Hurricane, not particularly impressive table either. So yeah, so far Party Zone is winning this column of tables. And I haven't had any twinges to go back and play like Class of 1812, which was a decent table, or Bride of Pinbot, or Whirlwind, or even Funhouse, or Dr. Dude, or Diner. But those are all good tables. But in all fairness, I also haven't had too many twinges to go back and play a lot of these tables. If we look at my curation of this curation, I am at 12 tables in general. I'm also at 212 achievements still locked for Steam. I have unlocked 73 achievements, but there are 212 still to do, which pretty much guarantees that I would never be able to get all the achievements, and it would be not worth my time to play some of these bad tables just to try to get all the wizard goals. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.